Hi, I'm Stacy Hollander. I'm at Quilters Take Manhattan, and it's September 20th, 2014. I'm the chief curator at the American Folk Art Museum, also here in New York City. And as many of you probably know, we have one of the finest collections of historic quilts in the country. So it was a hard choice to decide what to bring with me today. I brought this particular quilt for three reasons. One, it's visually absolutely stunning, and I hope that many of you had a chance to take a look at it up close. The second reason is that we first uncovered or became aware of this quilt in the late 1980s when the American Folk Art Museum was running the New York Quilt Documentation Project. And so this was one of 6,000 quilts that we documented at that time. And it was one of just around 20 or so quilts that were selected for the culminating exhibition in the early 1990s. So we've known about this quilt for quite some time. And what we knew in the 1990s was that it was made by a German immigrant tailor. At the time, we thought his name was Karl Klennicke. And the quilt came into our collection a couple of years ago and was recently on exhibit at the American Folk Art Museum. What was discovered really only since it came into our collection by Jackie Oak, a researcher at the Shelburne, was A, that this quilt was actually published in the local newspapers in Corning, New York in the early 20th century. And I brought a transcript of the articles that occurred in the newspaper because it's just a wonderful story. So that's the third reason I brought the quilt, is that it actually has a story attached to it. As a museum curator, I'm just not allowed to make things up. So what we discovered was that instead of having been made around 1900, which is what we had dated it because of the silks, because it's in a show quilt style, it was actually made in 1907. And at the time, the article said that it's a wonder in many respects. It's only 6 feet square, but it contains 31,085 pieces of silk artistically arranged. And Mr. Kluicki, now we knew that the maker's name was Kluicki, not Klennicke, worked on the quilt at odd moments for 20 years. The quilt is worthy of being placed on exhibition. So that was very exciting to learn about the quilt. But then something even more astounding was discovered in an earlier edition of the same newspaper. In 1879, and I'm just going to read this to you, on the evening of March 1st, an infant girl about 3 months old was left on the doorstep at the house of Karl Kluicki, cutter of MP and Sorge. The child was well dressed, and an extra pair of shoes was in the bundle of clothing left with it. Mr. and Mrs. Kluicki, having no children, adopted the foundling and are already quite proud as well as happy in its possession. So a few years after this foundling was left on the doorstep of the Kluickis, Mr. Kluicki, a tailor in this shop, which was the palace of fashion, by the way, started working on this quilt for around 20 years and then gave it to his daughter as a wedding present.